I'm Eileen Murphy, Vice President of Government Relations with New Jersey Audubon. Today I had the opportunity to speak with New Jersey Senator Anthony Bucco, who represents the 25th Legislative District. Bucco is a lifelong resident of Morris County and has served in the New Jersey Senate since 2019, having previously served in the General Assembly from 2010 to 2019. His devotion to public service has prompted him to focus on programs to support COVID-19, healthcare workers, and first responders. We are pleased that he has carved out some time to speak with us here at New Jersey Audubon on the issue of the day, coronavirus pandemic, and to discuss his work supporting conservation and open space issues in the state. Thank you. So, Senator Bucco, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the areas in New Jersey that you represent?
Sure. I'm the senator for the 25th Legislative District, which covers 20 towns in Morris County and one in Somerset, which is Bernardsville. The 20 towns that I have in Morris County start in Boonton and work its way all the way out Route 80 to Washington Township area, then south down through the Chesters and Mendhams into Bernardsville, and including Netcong and Denville, Randolph. So that's kind of my area of northern New Jersey.
And what led you to it?
Well, unfortunately, what led me to become the senator is the passing of my father, who was Senator Bucco, who passed in September. And I served in the assembly for 10 years, actually under him. He was the senator from this district while I was the assemblyman. And when he passed, I was offered the opportunity through the county committee that fills the vacancies when something like that happens, to follow in his footsteps. He left big ones. He was in elected office for over 40 years, and I'm honored to be able to sit in his seat and continue his legacy.
So public service is a family affair.
It is. I was taught that from a young age, and I taught my children the same thing. My son is now a volunteer fireman in the town of Boonton, where I served as a volunteer fireman for now, I guess it's over 40 years. So, and now he's picking up that mantle. And while I'm getting a little too old to be running into burning buildings, he's taken up that job for me now. And I kind of try to assist administratively wherever I can.
Didn't you reach a captain status?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's captain now, actually, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, currently the citizens in New Jersey are focused on efforts to minimize impacts to their lives due to coronavirus and the quarantine. Can you share with us some legislative actions that you've been involved with in general in New Jersey in response to the pandemic?
Sure. One of the nice, if there is a nice thing that's come out of this, I think, it's the way the legislature has responded in a bipartisan fashion. Mm-hmm. My colleagues and I on both sides of the aisle have really worked together to get things done to help our residents through this crisis. And if there's a bright note anywhere, that's where it is. And we continue to see that today, and I'm proud of that. And as a result of that, I've had a number of pieces of legislation that I've been proud to author and have my name on that have made it to the governor's desk and been signed, along with many of my colleagues from the other side of the aisle, some of which allows for remote meetings for our local governments to be able to continue government operating. I also introduced and had passed and signed by the governor a bill that would allow our nonprofits to hold remote meetings so that our economy can continue even under this crisis, to operate the best that it can. Those are a couple of things. I was one of the prime sponsors of the legislation to delay our corporate and individual income tax filings to July and extend the budget deadline to September, so we have a better understanding of what the revenues are going to be before we have to strike a budget. I think that's going to be very critical. Otherwise, we could end up with budget shortfalls next year. So So we've been working together on a bipartisan basis to get that done.
Also, grants have been made available to New Jersey small businesses, as well as to nonprofits like New Jersey Audubon through the New Jersey Economic Development Authority Small Business Emergency and Assistance Loan Program. Can you share some information about your efforts to secure perhaps some additional stimulus packages at the state level?
It was our legislation that established the protocol for the EDA to be able to accept money from the federal government and then funnel it out to small businesses and nonprofits during this crisis. So that's the good news. The bad news is there's been way too little money and funding that has been given to these programs. We've seen recently that these programs have opened up for applications, and within hours they're oversubscribed. So we need to concentrate on getting more money into these programs. And in fact, I did a release and sent a note to the governor about how once the first program was opened up, we kind of got an idea of just how big a demand there is for these programs. So now we've got to work on getting the federal money and state money into these programs to make sure that they have an impact of those that most need it. We also need to have some transparency, right? Because many people don't understand how these decisions are being made. You know, is it first come, first serve? Is it based on need? Is it a combination of both? We need to make sure that our residents understand when they're applying for these programs, what the ground rules are and how the decisions are going to be made. Because everybody is, I think, willing to share a little bit of the pain, but they want to make sure that everybody's being treated equally. And what a lot of people forget about it are the nonprofits, right? You know, those nonprofits are critical now because a lot of those nonprofits serve the public in many different ways. And we can't afford not to make sure that they not only have the resources to continue to serve the public, but also have the ability. And that was kind of what led me to do the legislation to allow the nonprofit boards to meet remotely, because in the current legislation, we didn't have a mechanism for that. So they would have been forced to try to continue make adjustments without having board meetings. And that would have been difficult.
So switching gears a little bit, can you tell us a bit about your interest in preventing and mitigating harmful effects of algal blooms, particularly those outbreaks that we were seeing last summer in northern New Jersey?
Well, listen, this is certainly a critical issue, especially for Lake Apacon and that region. Lake Apacon is a jewel to the state of New Jersey, and especially in this region. And what happened a year ago was devastating, not only to the residents up there, but to the economy. And we can't allow that to happen again. I was happy to see that the DEP was able to obtain some federal funding to be able to provide programs to the Lake Apacon Commission, Lake Apacon Foundation, some of the municipalities to implement programs that would address these harmful algae blooms. And now we're going to have to keep a close eye on that because obviously we know that the budget's going to be tough and we can't afford to have another year of problems out on Lake Apacon because it not only hurts the environment, but it hurts the economy. You know, many people don't realize that the environment and the economy many times are hand in hand, right? We see that even in our parks, right? When people go out for a picnic, they stop and they get things at the local deli or, they rent bicycles or whatever they do drives the local economy, fishing licenses and stuff like that. All of those things are important, but they're based on having an environmentally sound place to go. So you got to have a balance there, and you got to make sure that we protect the resources that we have. You know, all too often the state neglects its assets. And then once they're falling apart, it takes so much more money to fix them. You know, you look at the roads and bridges, we sometimes neglect them until it's a crisis. And then instead of having painted them every few years, we're now replacing them. So we've got to use our money wisely. And that holds true for Lake Apacon, which is a state asset which brings millions of dollars to this region and supplies recreation to people from all over the state and the tri-state area for that matter. So we really got to invest wisely in keeping that lake environmentally healthy and able to be the economic engine and the place for people to go to kind of blow off a little steam.
And that's actually a great segue into my next question, which is about outdoor recreation, hiking, fishing, kayaking. It's an important industry in Jersey. The Outdoor Industry Association estimates that outdoor recreation generates $19 billion in Jersey alone. So keeping in line with what you were just saying about the environment and the economy really being linked and being an important economic boost to New Jersey, what kinds of legislative actions are you working on to enable people to connect with the outdoors and enjoy nature while encouraging a healthy economy?
So certainly the Open Space Trust Fund money is important. We need to make sure that those programs are funded. We do that every year. Every morning, my wife and I get up and we go and we do 2 miles on the local municipal trail that's here in town with our dog. And, it helps me to kind of clear my head.
So how important is it for our representatives like yourself to hear from constituents like New Jersey Audubon?
It's critical. I often say that, to be a really effective legislator, you have to understand that listening is sometimes more important than talking. I do enjoy listening to the constituents that I represent because it also, when you listen, sometimes they give you great ideas for legislation that you may not think of.
And how is the legislation moving forward in this new virtual world? What are the challenges? What do you see as some potential solutions?
It's been challenging at times, but I think for the most part, we're continuing to get work done at within the legislature. We're now focusing on trying to be able to get committee meetings back up and running so that some of this legislation can get vetted before it gets to the floor, which I think is a great thing. I was kind of concerned about voting on legislation that hadn't gone through committee because there are sometimes unintended consequences that you don't think about. Sounds good on paper, but those that have to implement it on the ground see it differently. We've got to be able to have that opportunity as legislators to hear that. So we're able to do that.
It's not an easy job, and it seems to be in your blood, and we are so grateful to have dedicated public servants like yourself representing us. So thank you so much. And
well, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for taking the time today. It's really very meaningful, and we're just so happy to speak with our representatives. Thank you.
Well, I was glad to do it.